hey guys, I was able to get into the shop, so I feel comfortable opening the store. If you feel you can comfortably make it in safely, come on in. If you don't, just let me know. But on days where the shop was closed or someone said they didn't feel comfortable coming in, do you just pay them? Is it unpaid? And how we handled it internally was if you have PTO available, you could opt to use PTO or you could opt to take it unpaid. But it wasn't just like an extra paid day on top of, whatever else.
The following program features a bunch of doofuses talking about the automotive aftermarket. The stuff we, or our guests may say, do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of our peers, our sponsors, or any other associations we may have. There may be some spicy language in this show, so if you get your feelings hurt easily, you should probably just move along. So without further ado, here's your host, Mike Allen, with Confessions of a Shop Owner, presented by TechMetric, the best software in the history of ever.
Where's your trophy, dude?
We don't support third place trophies around here.
Did you throw it in the trash? Did it not even make it back?
It's in storage.
I told you I was going to do that, so I had to do it. Now it's got a place of honor in the background. Did you watch Daytona this weekend?
No, I did watch the replay of the last 10 laps.
I have no idea how. Well, so I watched like the first 20 laps of the truck race because I know Pastrana and McFarlane and Tony, I think Tony Stewart was racing also?
Tony Stewart was racing too, yeah.
I don't know how it turned out, but I saw that Cletus was the first wreck of the race.
Yeah. I watched his interview and that was it.
Was it good?
It was great. It was great.
He's an entertainer, man.
Yeah, he's gold. They need to hold on to him.
They need something, man. They need to put him up in the top league. Well, so we're middle of February. We're going to talk about January a little bit. We just got back a couple weeks ago from Elite's Ignite conference, which I thought was awesome.
Yep.
Had a great time out there. I didn't get to enjoy as much of the content on day 2 and 3, but the early day for Pro Service, I got to spend a fair amount of time in with the Carnegie instructor that you guys had out, and I thought that was great. It was good to kind of connect and see a bunch of the folks that we talk to online all the time, so that was nice as well. From y'all's perspective, was it a success?
Oh man, what a great event! And I told Darren and Hannah and everybody that was involved in the internal team of putting it together. It's last year was our first event there with Ignite, and it went very well. To follow up an inaugural event that goes very well with a second event is much more difficult than people give it credit for. And so I was incredibly proud of the team and the effort that they put together to make it happen. I thought this year eclipsed last year. From a content standpoint, an ease of operation standpoint, it just felt a little bit smoother, and we had a few more people and a few more speakers there as well. So that was awesome, and like you said, just to be able to get a chance to see everybody that we only get a chance to speak to on these virtual meetings, a couple times a year, and then to be able to see them and meet each other face to face again is pretty nice, and it didn't hurt that. It was 10 degrees and snow on the ground here while we were in Arizona, and it was 78 and sunny. So
yeah, I did get delayed a day coming home, and so I had to hang out in Phoenix for an extra day where it was like 80. And
you should have taken the red eye home with me.
Well, I was supposed to take the red eye, but Delta was like, "Don't take the red eye; you'll never make it home."
Yeah.
And so then I changed a day later, and it turns out I probably could have come home because the storm wasn't as bad as predicted. Yeah. But I used that extra day to work on some of my action items from my coaching meetings that I had while I was there. So sure. It was useful time, and it was warm time. I sat outside and drank beer on the patio. It was nice.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was hard to beat, man. It was gorgeous. The facilities were great. The weather was wonderful. Scottsdale is home to a bunch of elite family members there. So it was really neat having that many people that close to home and seeing people drive back and forth and everything. So it was a great event, and glad we got an opportunity to do it.
One of the cool things about it is, like you said, there's like this little community of shop owners from around the country that have been elite members for a long time, that have built huge businesses, sold them successfully, and bought a retirement home on the golf course in Scottsdale. And so they were all there, and that was pretty neat to see, kind of what it looks like once you've finished this journey of shop ownership, what the potential is. So that was cool. So anyway, let's talk about January. How was January in Roxborough?
So January was a tale of 2 months for us. I'm sure kind of similar for you guys as well, because we're not that far away. But first part of January was rocking and rolling, and we had a record. We still had a record January at the end of the month, but it was going to be a record month.
Look, here's the deal. I like to think that I'm pretty good at running an auto repair shop. It's what I've done for 20 plus years, but I'm not good at managing a marketing budget and all the different facets of a truly well-rounded marketing plan. There's mail, there's local advertising, there's website, there's Google AdWords, there's all the different things that go into that, and it's just not what I'm good at. So what I've chosen to do is to buy myself the time to focus on what I am good at, while having someone else execute on all of those things at a way higher level than anything I could ever do. That's what turnkey auto marketing does for me. So if you feel like you could use some of that same magic, I'm going to recommend that you go to turnkeyautomarketing.com, get a free consultation, tell them that I sent you, tell them that Confessions of a Shop Owner sent you. You won't be disappointed.
Okay, let's call it what it is. If you're going to step away from the shop, it better be worth it, period. Tectonic 2026 is designed for that reality. Role-based sessions, hands-on workshops, and conversations with people who actually understand what it takes to keep a shop profitable and a team sane. And I like that it doesn't pretend we all need the same thing. Owners, advisors, and technicians don't have the same headaches, so you're not wasting time sitting through sessions that don't apply to your day-to-day life. You should leave with a clearer idea of what to fix first, what to tighten up, and importantly, what you should stop wasting time on. Presented by TechMetric, Tectonic is happening April 9th through 11th in Houston, Texas. Tickets are on sale now, and my listeners get $500 off standard pricing with code CONFESSIONS500. Go to techmetric.com/Tectonic, that's TEKTONIC, or tap the link in the show notes for more.
And then we got hit really hard with the weather there at the tail end of the month, and we actually shut down for 5 days. And then once we did get back open, I was, like you said, we're into February now. I'm in the store on Fridays, so I was in the store the Friday after Ignite, and I heard people coming in saying it was the first time they left their house since the snow started. So it's been a
yeah, we're just not equipped for that shit, man. That's not what we do in North Carolina.
No, and our area is more equipped for it. So they'll keep the main road very accessible, and it's easy to get down 501. But once you get off anything off of 501, the story changes pretty big. And then the average age of our community is 55. So at 55 years, they got their bread and they got their milk. They're gonna, as long as the TV's working, they're gonna hang out and ride it out. So it's just the way that it goes. And I know when we were doing our goals and everything a couple weeks ago, we sat down and we talked about dividing the year out by 48 instead of by 52. And I had to pull the team together, last week and just remind them that's why we do that, because we're going to lose a week or two here and there, just because of weather. Different events are going to happen. Sometime in the spring through early fall, we're going to have a tornado or a hurricane come through that's going to impact us, and we're going to lose a day from that. And it's just how it goes.
And so you average out the goal across the year based on that expectation of losing 2 weeks, but to lose them almost all 2 weeks of the plan right at the beginning of the year makes you feel like you're kind of behind the 8 ball and you're playing catch up for the rest of the year, which can be stressful.
Yep,
for sure.
Yeah, and so same conversation we had internally at my store, I'll have with you today. So we are a little bit behind the 8 ball, right? And weather, unfortunately, as much as I've tried in my life of going to church on Sundays and praying it away, I've not figured out the direct line of communication there to make that happen. So we're not in control of the weather as much as I would like to be. So that's outside of our controllables. So let's put that away. Outside of the weather, how were our daily averages? How did everything play out there? And then we'll talk about some strategies we can use to get on the catch-up side of things.
So let's see, how many working days did we have in January? We had 21 because we were closed on New Year's Day. We ended up closing 2 days, so that knocks us down to 19. But it really badly impacted us. Probably 3 additional days on top of that. So I don't know, but the doors were open for 19 days. So last month at the reporting store that we talk about, we did 104,000, just under 104, 103,720. And
so that puts us at about $5,000, a little over $5,000 a day in total sales, which, had we not had the weather events, puts us at around 120, which puts us pretty close to our target for January.
Yeah. And so you combine the weather days with the fact that the students were out of town for a good portion of that. I don't feel bad about how January went. You know, we've got the people that we need in place, the right number of bodies in the right positions. So, you know, onward and upward from there.
Okay.
I do have a question, though, for you about, you know, you talk about weather days, and there was a lot of conversation that I saw online about how do you handle employee compensation on weather days. And so our current policy, you get 10 PDO or 15 if you've been there for long enough on January 1. And the communication internally was, hey guys, there's a storm coming. Here's our text tree that will communicate. By 5 a.m. I will send out, because you know how it was. 5 o'clock the previous afternoon, it might be 1 inch, it might be 17 inches. We don't know.
Yep.
So I said, by 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, I will start the text tree and let you know if we're going to be open or not. And the communication was, hey guys, I was able to get into the shop, so I feel comfortable opening the store. If you feel you can comfortably make it in safely, come on in. If you don't, just let me know. Right. And so that was the case a few of the days. And then a couple of the days it was, hey guys, I don't think we're going to have enough people to be open. So just stay home, stay safe, stay warm, that kind of thing.
Right.
But on days where the shop was closed, or someone said they didn't feel comfortable coming in, and that happened, do you just pay them? Is it unpaid? And how we handled it internally was, if you have PTO available, you could opt to use PTO, or you could opt to take it unpaid. But it wasn't just like an extra paid day on top of, whatever else.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing across elite customers? How do you handle it? That kind of thing.
So, across elite customers, obviously there's different state laws out there that require different things. So we ask everybody to, reach out to their local and state resources there and check and make sure that they're handling it appropriately. As far as what our personal policy is at my shop would be very similar to what you laid out. And if I was coaching somebody, I would coach them to do something very similar. In your processes and procedures, if you are in an area that does get inclement weather, and you're not up north where it's just expected that you come in because this is the 6 months of our life. Mm-hmm. For those of us that it really does impact travel, you need to have a weather plan. So what we did was we created a communication policy we call it Weather 1, Weather 2, and Weather 3. So Weather 1 is a normal day. In other words, so it's the same concept that you did as far as the text chain goes. We'll send out a text message either the day before or early that morning. And like I said, some days it is, 5 a.m. before we're making that call, just because there's such a gap in what could actually happen, like it was this last time. And so I'll send out a text message. Weather 1 is we're open, it's normal schedule. Weather 2 is we're working off of a 2-hour delay, or we're leaving 2 hours early. Weather 3 is we're closed. So that keeps the communication a little bit easier for everybody. And then we'll follow the same policy that you had there. If you have time available, you can take the PTO. If not, you can take it as an unpaid day, so it doesn't it doesn't count against your paid time that you have in the bank.
Well, and I know that there were some guys who were like, "Boss, I'm ready to go to work. I can be at work. I'll be there at 8:00." And they don't want to take PTO. They want to be at the shop and get paid. But it's like I'm going to have one technician, one advisor, and me, and no customers. There's not really any point in being open. In that situation, I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm sorry. It's just not viable and feasible to be open right now."
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that's probably, honestly, that's probably a bigger conversation there as far as what do you do? Because anytime we have an event like this, especially in our area, and there's other areas that are similar to what our climate is, where an inch or two of snow impacts 3 or 4 or 5 days.
One thing that makes Elite different is we don't believe in one-size-fits-all solutions. Every shop is different. Every owner is different. That's why our coaching is tailored to you for your goals and your reality, and not some generic playbook. Real people, real shops, and real results.
And when we have an event like we did this past time, where we got 6 inches of ice here in Roxborough, it was a 2-week impact, and then we got hit again the next week.
Yeah.
So the real question is what do we do during those days? Like you said, okay, it's good enough. We close down for the one day. We open up the next day, but there's no customers. What do we do in those days after, we open back up when there's not a lot of action happening, to justify everybody's time being there? And, I think the important thing is number one, that's the time for us as leaders to make sure that we get there and set the tone, for everybody, because nobody wants to be there, right? They had to wake up an hour and a half earlier just to leave an hour early to drive 5 miles an hour to get there. Their kids are out of school, so their spouses are sitting at home frustrated with kids that have been out of school for a couple days.
Yeah.
They want to go out and do the fun stuff with the kids in the snow and sledding and all that good stuff, and they're missing out on that. They know that they're going to have a limited opportunity to earn because there's going to be a limited customer, limited car count for some time. Every car they do touch is going to be dripping water on their head.
Yeah.
And, keeping everything clean is going to be a pain in the butt for the next, couple weeks. So I think, first things first is it's important to get out in front of all that and just let them know that this is, next couple weeks are going to suck. It just is what it is. Right. And understand that they know that it's going to suck, and control what we can control. We can control our attitude, right? We can make the best out of this situation. And then we need to manufacture urgency that normally exists from the customer. So if we take the customer out of the situation, there's zero urgency in our industry if there's no customer. When we add a customer to the mix, there's urgency there, right? And the team, especially the tech staff, they get used to that urgency, and they get used to being busy, and they like being busy. And then you take the urgency away, and now we get the complaints of, everybody starts to Chicken Little and the sky is falling and every car that comes in sucks. And, so I think it's just, I think the big thing there is how to, making sure you have a snow day plan in place, or if you want to call it a slow day plan, you can call it a slow day plan, but just something that says, what do we do in these situations? You're going to have canceled appointments. So going ahead and getting ahead of those canceled appointments and calling those customers that were on the schedule for this week and go ahead and pre-booking them out for some time in the future. This is your great, a day or two is going to be wrapped into equipment and facility maintenance and cleaning, pulling in the loaner cars and getting the stuff done that you haven't been able to get done in quite some time. And, whatever, internal training. We did 2 hours of role play a day during that because we didn't have anything else to do. So we would take the front counter team and do some sales training and role play training.
I'm just making notes. I like this.
Yep.
So we try to do 15 minutes of role play training most mornings. I mean, some mornings we have different topics. Like this morning, we had a different topic. But one of the things that I ran into is the guys were like last week. The guys were getting really comfortable, and it started to get kind of silly.
Yep.
And I'm bringing in my 1972 Peugeot, and just kind of chuckle fucking their way around the conversation. And I had to be like, hey guys, I get it. I'm the first to come up with a silly joke every now and then, but this is practice and we are trying to get better at what we do. And so I like the idea of if it's slow, let's role play this sales call before we actually make the call because God knows we got time.
Yep. And so what I talk to them about is, again, getting back to controlling the controllables. My averages shouldn't change, right? So like if my car count goes down, my ARO, my AWRO, all of those should technically go up, right? But they should never go down, right? If car count goes up, then it stresses the process a little bit, and we might see ARO drop down a little bit. We might see AWRO drop down a little bit. But anytime that I know that we're going to be slow, I want to make sure that I'm looking at the averages and not necessarily the cumulative totals, because if I can't force car count to happen, then I have to live with what I have for car count, and I have to make the most out of it, right? Which is one of the reasons that I'm a believer in trying to push car count as much as we can from time to time, because if we get slow and we have a really low car count model and we slow down, there's nothing I can do because my ARO is already as high as it can be, my AWRO is already as high as it can be, and we just have to live with what we have. Whereas if I'm pushing car count consistently and I slow down, then I can always go in and say, hey guys, instead of a $500 ARO, this week we're looking for a $700 ARO because we don't have as many cars.
So I was having a conversation this weekend with a guy who's got some shops in Arkansas, and his big shop has broken 600K in a month. So it's a pretty big shop, right?
Sure.
And they do it with a $400 average repair order. So it's just mad car count, right?
Yep.
And I was kind of like, well, this guy's got $1,000. We're talking about my advisor team. This guy's got $1,000 ARO. This guy's $800. This guy's, $600. This guy's $450. What can I do to get this guy who's at 450 back up to, kind of the mean? And he's like, 450 would be a rock star for me. And I said, well, maybe, but we're doing 7 cars a day, 6 cars a day per advisor. Right. And he was like, I don't know. I mean, trying to go and hunt an advisor who's going to just walk in with a $700 or $800 ARO in a general repair shop is not a thing, not an easy thing. Right. So why not just feed the monster with car count? But I guess.
And it's, I'm not attacking all models work, right? High car count models work, low car count models work. I think that, my personal opinion on that is I like to stress the system with car count every now and again, because it does find holes in the process and in the system, and it finds constraints and barriers, because there's only 2 real ways to grow. We either sell more to the customers that we already have, or we get more customers.
Yeah.
And once you start topping out at that $700 plus ARO, how do you sell more to what you already have? Right?
There's a limited amount of opportunity in a general repair shop before you start killing cars.
Yeah. And so, there is a limit to how much you can push ARO, and there is a limit to, how far you can push your pricing to inflate an ARO. So, I mean, it just comes down to what is the next way to grow? The next way to grow is car count. And the struggle with car count is it breaks everything in the shop, right? It makes everything else harder. You're going to go through that time period where AWRO drops, ARO drops, everybody feels all stressed out. And all that means is that your process in some way, shape, or form is broken.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not feasible to handle that level of car count yet. So every now and again, I like to go push a 100-car week out just to see what happens. And I mean, I know it's gonna make the numbers look bad. But it always brings up a lot of good coaching opportunities, with the team. So that was kind of our conversation coming off the snow was how do we push 80 to 100 cars over the next couple weeks, knowing that, because what we really lost, we didn't really lose sales in those days that were closed. We lost sales potential because there was no discovery. So the funnel is what winds up getting depleted, right? Because you still had work in progress that was sitting in the shop or sitting in the parking lot when the store closed. So when the technicians come back in, they still have work to do in those, after those 2 or 3 days that you were closed. But now there's no work to do a week from now, right? Because we weren't bringing cars in for 2 days. So we lost 14 cars at $2,000 of discovery per car. That's $28,000 of sales potential.
Hey, it's me, Mike's kid. Want to tell us your wild shop stories? Or maybe you just think my dad's totally wrong. Call us at 704-CONFESS and leave a message. You can tell us we're awesome, or you can tell us we're idiots. We're cool either way. That's 704-CONFESS. Just don't make it too weird.
And in our model, I lost 28 pre-scheduled appointments. Right. So I lost.
It's 28 oil changes and also 28 state inspections, right? So
Yeah.
that is something I want to talk about is pre-scheduled appointments. Is I'm trying to push hard and touch on it every day to create new habits. But I mean, it's reasonable that every vehicle that comes through that lives in your marketplace, it's not like getting service while they're on a road trip or something, should be 2 pre-booked appointments, right? The next oil change and the next state inspection. I think that's pretty standard for North Carolina vehicles. For those of our listeners that are outside of the state, North Carolina has an annual safety and emissions inspection that has to be done. And so, I mean, last week we did 146 cars across the stores, and I'm like, I would think at least 200 pre-booked appointments for their next oil change and their next, well, even if they're not in for an oil change, we can look at the sticker or the oil life monitor and extrapolate what that should be. So, call it 1 pre-booked appointment per car. 150, let's say, is what I would like to have seen, and we saw, like 13 pre-booked appointments. And so that's a little bit frustrating on trying to establish the new standard. And I'll be honest, like, little confession for me, I'm typically kind of a, hey, let's do this, guys. Come on. Yay, rah, rah, rah. And to the degree possible, I guess, I kind of did a little ass chewing this morning. I was like, guys, it's been 5 or 6 weeks we've been talking about that. That's enough time to create a new habit if you're actually doing it.
Yep.
I think the illusion that, or the comparison that I drew was a conversation I had with my kids not long ago was I'd really like to be physically fit and strong and flexible, but clearly I don't want that as much as I want Bojangles. Right. And so I know what I need to do and I'm not doing it. That means I don't want it. Well, guys, you know what you need to do, and you also want to get, our high tier pay bonus, but you're not doing what you need to do to do it, because that's what removes the peaks and valleys out of car count, is to pre-book, and then you can kind of, like you've talked about before, if you know how many pre-books you have, you're going to have some no-shows out of that. But if you've planted the seed and educated your customers after a couple of cycles of the pre-booking game, they get used to it. And you can project car count times ARO. You can project your revenue with a high degree of accuracy.
Yeah.
And I just can't get the buy-in right now. And I don't know effectively how to dick and like, just fucking do it.
So let's talk about a little bit of that. So
Okay.
Number one, do they have a script for how to have that conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
It's at checkout. It's, hey, Miss Jones, part of my job here is to be your car guy. If you have any issues with anything that has wheels, I want you to think I'm going to call Mike. right? So you don't need to worry about remembering when your oil change is due or when your state inspection is due, because I've set reminders and I'm going to call you when it's due so that we can set an appointment to get that done. And then
Okay.
we have a specific color in our TechMetric scheduler that it's purple for us. So if you go in
Yep.
the calendar and you see purple, that's somebody who needs to be called and converted to a confirmed appointment. And so we try to push all the state inspection pre-books to the first of the month, so we can call them and say, "Hey, your inspection's due this month," and pick a day that's good. But oil change is the day, just 6 months out from the day we did it.
So a couple different things there. Number one, everybody, I don't know how other shop management systems work, but your lovely TechMetric shirt that you have there, I do know how TechMetric works. In TechMetric, if you pre-book that appointment, it has the service advisor's name that booked the appointment on it, right? So start by gamifying it a little bit, and if we're gonna use carrots and sticks, carrots work better than sticks.
Yeah.
And my personal belief is for this, I like it to be something smaller than bigger. Like I've tried to do big bonuses for stuff like this before, and for whatever reason, it's too small of an act for them, and it's too repetitive of an act for them to stay. But if I give you $1 every time you do it, it's not a real big monetary reward, but it's a reminder that you did something right. Right? So if I'm teaching a dog to sit, I don't give him a bowl of food, I give him one piece of kibble. Right? Every time. And it's just marking the behavior that I liked. So same concept with this. And then you can have if you want to have a competition at the end of it and have like a dinner out at, a nice restaurant kind of deal, a dinner for two is the grand prize for the whole month. We've done stuff like that before in the past when we're trying to rep a new behavior, or build in a new habit, and that tends to work pretty well. But the big one that I'll do when I first try to implement this with clients is I give the advisor a reason to have the conversation. And because the biggest reason that they don't do it is because they feel weird bringing it up to the customer. Right? Okay. In their mind, the customer doesn't want this, and we're getting ready to shove them in a awkward situation that they're going to have to skillfully maneuver through with this customer, and so they don't want to do it. So things that we've done is you can do a BOGO offer, where if they schedule the next oil change right now and prepay for it, then they get a second oil change for free. And the only caveat is they have to show up. They have to pre-schedule both appointments, and they have to make the first appointment, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason that I like that is two reasons. Number one, it's easy for salespeople like something to sell. Like they like a gimmick in their mind because they think it's a cheat code to make it easy for them to sell. It's really not any easier in the end, but this gets them in the habit of having the conversation about it. And getting used to the fact that, I'm not going to get punched in the face when, we go to schedule this. The other thing is, if I can sell the BOGO, I'm getting my money on the front end, and they have to show up to the next one. So before it has any loss for me to be a loss leader, they had to have shown up twice. Right? So they're in today. So I got 3 appointments out of 1 free oil change. I got today's appointment and 2 more pre-scheduled. And eventually, when you get good at that, we're going to start doing those halfway stops that we talked about, and you're going to get 4 pre-scheduled appointments out of a BOGO.
So, do you have that process in writing somewhere?
I do.
And if I ask you to send that to me, and then ask all of our followers to not email Matt and ask him to send it to you also. He ain't got time for that shit. Maybe you can bug me and I'll share it with you. But
Well, you can always email Matt, and I'm happy to talk to each one of you about it.
And about being an elite client.
And about being an elite client and how we can help you with this. But yeah, I like to, and again, if you find this as something that works forever, then you can leave it in as something that works forever if it works for you. But I usually like to run it as something, hey, we're going to do this for 90 days, right? And because what it does is it gives the service advisors a reason to have that conversation with the customer that they feel good about, because now they feel like they're giving the customer something and not taking something from them that they don't want. And they get into the habit of having that good exit conversation. And again, from a cash flow standpoint, it winds up being a good thing because you're going to get prepaid for an oil change on the front end. And then we're going to pre-book out these appointments, and it helps us create the snowball of the habits, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got to do something different. And so, and I agree, I'm of the same mindset that the carrot works better than the stick. So, you alluded a little bit to a small spiff and a big reward. And I'm working on a couple of different spiff programs right now. One of the things that I've realized in RO audits of late is that we've really fallen off on selling maintenance. We've become a shop that you bring your broken shit to, and we fix your broken shit. We're not doing kind of the low hanging fruit that should be the easiest stuff to identify and convert. Everybody knows that you change your oil to make your vehicle last longer and live longer, right? Well, all of the fluids will break down in some capacity eventually and need service to some degree. And there's a wide degree of variability based on the type of fluid in the vehicle and the service life and that kind of thing. But we've just effectively stopped doing any fluid maintenance beyond oil services and trying to pick back up on that. And so I think about, $600, $700, $800 ARO without any maintenance services. It's really not that hard to get to 1,000 if we pick up the maintenance also. So I'm looking at a quarterly spiff program with our fluid service chemical provider. But do you have any experience with things of that nature with programs like that, and how have you formatted them?
So we do have a spiff program that's weekly for the advisors on those things. But I think, honestly, I would love to tell you that the spiff program will fix everything. It will not. It's more of a reminder for me to know that we didn't hit our goal every week. So they've got a minimum number of services that we're supposed to sell, and it's based off our car count and the averages.
If you've listened to this podcast for more than 5 minutes, you already know my favorite way to learn is to watch someone else screw it up first. That's the whole point of Tectonic 2026. It's not a conference where everybody pretends everything is perfect. It's owners, advisors, and techs getting in the same room to talk about what worked, what didn't, and what they'd do differently if they could rewind the tape. Because the painful truth is, most of the stuff holding a shop back isn't some secret trick. It's the basics we avoid. Training, consistency, communication, accountability, inspections, workflow, hiring, all the boring stuff that actually makes you the money. Presented by TechMetric, Tectonic is happening April 9th through 11th in Houston. Tickets are on sale, and our listeners get $500 off standard pricing with code CONFESSIONS500. Go to techmetric.com/Tectonic. That's TEKTONIC, or tap the link in the show notes.
We kind of average it out and say, we should do 20% of our car count should need an alignment, and so we said, hey, we're going to sell 50% of the ones that we present. So that's 10, winds up being around 10% of the overall car count, kind of deals with. So we have different targets for those things, and I'll have a spiff for them in their pay plan. But again, really the way that I look at that is it opens the door for the conversation of, hey, we've got 3 weeks in a row where we haven't met our spiff goal for, we haven't met our target goal for BG services. What's going on with that? So what I have found, and we're in a traditionally challenging market for preventative maintenance. It's a rural community, so trying to tell somebody with a 12-year-old car that they need to do a brake flush is a bit of a challenge. But what I've found is the easiest way to sell that is through the pre-booked, because what I can do at that point in time is on the original oil change service, before we pre-book, we're going to recommend a brake flush, right? We're going to have a low probability of selling that. But I can pre-book the next oil change with the brake flush in our system. And that way, when I call the customer to pre-book, we can have that conversation again about the brake flush that we recommended last time. And then when they come in, we can go through the list of deferred services and what we had there for a repair plan in place and priorities and all that. So that makes as far as being able to sell those things on visit number one, I don't know that I have any silver bullets to load in and help you with that.
I think maintenance services are purchased by people who know, like, and trust you, right?
Sure. And so you're 100% right. And so the real trick is, how do we get the same people in the door? Because the average vehicle goes to a shop 1.2 times per year, and that's by AAA. That number was put out. So if you look at it and say we talked about there's two different ways to grow a business. Is either to sell more to customers that you already have or to get more customers, right? Well, one of the ways that you can sell more to customers that you already have is get those same customers to patronize you more than 1.2 times per year.
Yeah.
So we push for 3 visits a year. That's what we really push for. And then, like you said, by that second, third visit of the same conversation happening multiple times, we're finally able to get them into that mode of thinking, and we've won them over. As far as the little, when I say the smaller air filters, wiper blades, those kind of things. So I really love selling all that stuff. And it's the easiest way to sell those things is just work this into your sales process and your inspection process, especially for waiters. Take it off, take it out into the waiting room. So I like to try to do this in our pre-inspection process, not when the technician gets to it. So this is part of our check-in process from the advisor. So we're going to flip the wiper blade up, tug on each corner just a little bit, just to make sure it's not dry right into it. We're not grabbing a pair of needle nose pliers and yanking it across. So we're not breaking people's wiper blades. And we go through a lot of conversation about how to do this correctly. But, if you tug on the corner a little bit and it starts to tear, we're going to take the wiper blade off and we're going to walk inside. And I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Allen, I just wanted to show you, this is your wiper blade. This is a bad one. Do you want me to put the bad one back on, or would you like me to replace it with a good one? Right? Versus if you just walk in there and say, hey, I noticed that you need wiper blades. Do you want us to go ahead and put wiper blades on it? If I ask you, do you want me to put the bad one back on, or do you want me to go ahead and put a new one on for you? That's worked really, really well every time we can be consistent with doing that. It's probably... So I'm a great one-day service advisor. I despise the position for more than one day just because of all of the organizational skills that it takes to do it. I love the people interaction side of it, but I hate everything else. It stresses me out. It stresses me out to no end. So I've got a tremendous amount of respect for advisors. But about the only thing that really changes in my store on a positive when I go in and I work the front counter for more than one day is we sell the heck out of wiper blades and air filters. And it's just because I'll walk in, I'll do that on every single car that comes in. I'll walk in, miraculously, the majority of them say yes. Same thing with air filters, right? You get the air filter that's clogged. I bring it in and I say, hey, this is your air filter. It's super, it's super dirty and clogged. Do you want me to put this one back in, or do you want me to go ahead and put a new one back in? And then same exterior light bulbs. Yeah. Same exterior light bulbs. Hey, this exterior light bulb is blown. You want me to put the bad one back in, or do you want me to go ahead and put a good one back in? All of those little things like that, it works really, really well. in their mind, it's already off, right?
Yeah.
And so if you leave it on, in their mind, they're paying for you to take it off and put a new one back on. So for whatever reason, they think half the job's already been done.
Yeah.
So they might as well just go ahead and put a good one in.
So we got Vision coming up soon. Is Elite going to be at Vision this year?
So Elite will have some contingency there at Vision. I know Tom Amaro is going to be our director of operations. He's going to be there speaking at Vision. I'm sure Darren will be there.
Awesome.
They're leaving me on the sidelines. I didn't make the Vision cut.
You got benched. I'm excited about Tectonic coming up because of the coaches panel that I'm going to be moderating, which should be a good time. It looks like there's going to be representatives from like 7 different coaching organizations on stage. It's going to be like a presidential debate with everybody has a lectern and a microphone. I've been told that potentially there will be a timer, and if they go over on time, their microphone's getting turned off, which I think will be epic. And I've got TechMetric runs a pretty tight ship and a very professional organization. So
Sure.
I imagine some of my natural childish tendencies will be reined in a little bit, but I'm still looking forward to doing that. I know that Darren's going to be on that panel, I believe.
That's pretty cool.
That'll be good. By the way, it's April 9 through 11 in Houston, Texas. Techmetric.com/tectonic. It's TEKTONIC. If you want to go, you can sign up, use code confessions500, and you get $500 off the ticket just for being an awesome listener of our show. So there you go.
Yeah.
So there's Vision coming up, and then there's Tectonic, and then there's Summer, right? And I think we've got Tools I'll be at, and then obviously ASTA Expo is going to be awesome. There's a lot of good stuff this year, so it should be a good year for that. What else do you think we should talk about today, man? I mean, we covered a lot of ground. I've got a lot of homework.
Yeah. I mean, what I would like to see is, I'd like to see you try to fill in the gaps on the pre-booking. I think that's going to solve a lot of, I think it's going to solve a lot more problems for you than you give it credit for, and that the team gives it credit for. One of the things, and I'm sure that you probably did this, but one of the things that helps to get buy-in on this is I always ask them, like, this time of year, and end of the fourth quarter is always a bit of a slow time industry wise for most of us, not all of us, but for most of us. And what really got our team bought into it was saying, listen, let's do this for 90 days. And then when we started this, it was 2 years ago in July, right? So I said, hey, what is 6 months from today? And they're like, well, December and January? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, what are we normally really busy in December? No, it's normally really bad. And I was like, okay, well, imagine if we could make that better, right? Because we're busy, our slow months are typically 6 months away from our busy months, right? So if we could take our high action and we could raise the floor of our slow months, and then when we raise the floor of our slow months and we pre-book out in those, it makes our busy months even bigger, right? And so it really does build momentum. But the challenge there is they have to commit to it for a minimum of 90 days before you're going to see any lift out of it, right? So it's a plan a treat a day.
Nagging them, but I got to,
Yeah. And there is going to be an element of that, the carrot side of things, you need to have that reminder out there for them for the carrot, just so they get something that you're doing on a daily basis where you're counting it and giving something. Again, it doesn't have to be a big monetary reward, just something that's a reminder that we just want to mark the behavior that we did a good job. And then being really, really consistent on your end of, we were supposed to get 12 appointments today and we only got 10. What's the deal, guys? What do we got to do to get those other 2? The other thing is the 2 that they make them go back and book the appointments. And you will get some weird emails and text messages from the customer that say, hey, I just got a notification saying that I booked this appointment. I didn't book an appointment. just work through that and make them work through that.
Yeah.
But I like, the trick to building good habits is make it more difficult to do the wrong thing than it is to do the right thing. And so, if I look at the end of the day and we only had 10 pre-schedules and we were supposed to have 12, I find the 2 that we were missing, and they have to pre-book them. I mean, and knowing that one of those customers is going to call and say, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. Well, I can start doing that for sure. So should be an interesting week for us. I've got at the big store, I've got 2 of the 4 advisors off this week because they both had things that could not shift so I'm having to work for a living. It sucks. So
it's a good opportunity to be the change that you want to see in the shop.
Lead by example. All right, dude. Well, thanks very much for the time. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you again shortly.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our video today. If you enjoyed this content and you'd like to see some more, you can click right here. And it would be really helpful for me if you thought that this level of mediocrity is something that could help your other friends that were shop owners or in the industry. You can click right here and subscribe. You can even set up notifications if you want. I'd love to have you on the channel.